Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to wake up one day and realize that everything you thought was permanent, your job, your home, your family, your identity was suddenly gone? What would you do if the life you built so carefully, piece by piece, slipped away in a matter of moments? Would you crumble under the weight of that loss, or would you somehow find the strength to begin again? This is the story of Emily Parker, a woman who lost everything she thought she needed to survive, yet somehow discovered something far greater: the secret to happiness. Emily grew up in a small town in Oregon. She was the kind of person who lived life by the rules. She believed that if she studied hard, worked diligently, and followed the expected path, then happiness would eventually arrive at her doorstep. And for a while, it seemed to work. She graduated from college, landed a stable job in marketing, and by her early 30s, she had purchased a modest home. She wasn't rich, but she was comfortable. Emily married Daniel, her college sweetheart. Together, they built a life that looked perfect from the outside. They posted smiling pictures on social media, dinners at restaurants, vacations to the coast, celebrations with friends. People often told Emily, "You're so lucky. You have it all together." And she believed them. She thought she did have it all. But life has a way of unraveling when you least expect it. The first crack appeared when Daniel confessed one evening that he wasn't happy anymore. He had met someone else. Emily remembered the exact moment the kitchen smelled of coffee. The evening light spilled through the window, and her world collapsed with a single sentence. Within months, their marriage ended. Suddenly, the man she thought she would grow old with was gone. Emily tried to keep herself together. She buried her pain in work, telling herself that at least she still had her career, her home, and her independence. But then, as if fate was determined to strip her down completely, the company where she worked for nearly a decade announced massive layoffs. Her name was on the list. Just like that, she lost her job. The house she once felt proud of soon became a burden she could no longer afford. Bills piled up, savings drained, and foreclosure notices arrived in the mail. One chilly October morning, she stood outside her home with cardboard boxes, watching strangers carry her furniture away. It felt like watching pieces of herself being dismantled. Emily's parents lived in another state. Her friends had their own lives, and she had no safety net. Within a year, she had gone from having it all to sitting in a small rented room above a diner, her world stripped bare. It was in that tiny room, sitting on the edge of a thin mattress, that Emily faced the question most of us fear: who am I without the things I thought defined me? For weeks, she felt swallowed by despair. Some days, she couldn't even muster the energy to leave her bed. The silence of her room pressed against her chest like a heavy stone. She would scroll through her phone, seeing smiling faces of people she once knew, living lives that seemed untouched by pain. It made her wonder if she had failed in some way. But life, even in its harshest seasons, has a way of planting seeds of hope where we least expect them. One evening, unable to sleep, Emily wandered downstairs to the diner below her rented room. The place was almost empty, except for a few late-night customers. She ordered a cup of coffee and sat quietly. An older woman named Mary, who worked as the waitress, stopped by her table and smiled. "Rough night?" she asked, gently. Emily nodded, tears threatening to spill. She didn't explain her whole story. She didn't have the strength, but Mary seemed to understand. "You know," Mary said, placing a warm hand on Emily's shoulder, "I've been through my share of storms, too. Lost my husband, lost my home. Thought I'd lost myself. But then I realized, happiness isn't what I lost. Happiness is what I choose to see, even in the ashes." Those words lingered with Emily long after she returned to her room. Happiness is what I choose to see. Could it really be that simple? She didn't believe it at first, but something inside her shifted. For the first time in months, she considered the possibility that her life wasn't over, it was just different. The next morning, instead of staying in bed, Emily decided to take a walk. The air was crisp, the sun barely rising, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. For a moment, standing there in the quiet morning, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: peace. Not the loud, fleeting happiness she used to chase, but a gentle calmness that came from simply noticing the beauty around her. From that day forward, Emily began rebuilding, not in the way she had before, but in a way that felt lighter. She found a job at the very diner she used to sit in at night. It wasn't glamorous. She served coffee, cleared tables, and refilled water glasses. But she discovered something surprising. She felt more alive in those small, genuine interactions with strangers than she had in years of sitting in corporate meetings. She began to notice details she had overlooked before: the laughter of children running past the diner, the way strangers helped each other carry groceries, the kindness in Mary's tired but warm eyes. Slowly, Emily began to realize that happiness wasn't hidden in the future she once imagined. It was right here, in the present moment. Her turning point came one winter afternoon. A man walked into the diner, looking exhausted and worn. He barely had enough money to pay for a coffee. Emily, remembering her own nights of loneliness, quietly slipped a slice of pie onto his plate. "It's on the house," she whispered with a smile. The man's eyes filled with tears. "You have no idea how much this means to me," he said. And in that moment, Emily understood. The secret to happiness was never about keeping everything. It was about giving something. It was about connection, kindness, and presence. Months turned into years, and though Emily never returned to the exact life she once had, she built something even more meaningful. She made friends at the diner. She learned to play guitar and joined a small community group where she sang on weekends. She volunteered at the local shelter, offering warmth to people who felt forgotten. She no longer measured her life by what she owned, but by the moments she created and the love she shared. Looking back, Emily often thought about that night Mary told her, "Happiness is what you choose to see." At the time, it felt impossible. But now, she knew it was true. She had lost her marriage, her home, her job, her sense of identity. Yet through that loss, she uncovered the profound truth that happiness was never tied to those things at all. It was always within her, waiting to be noticed, waiting to be chosen. And that, my dear listener, is the lesson I want you to carry with you today. You might be holding tightly to something, believing that without it, your life would collapse. Maybe it's a job, a relationship, a dream that feels like your whole identity. But the truth is, even if it slips away, you are not lost. Because happiness is not something life gives or takes, it is something you create in every choice you make, in every small act of kindness, in every breath of gratitude. So if you're listening right now and feel like you've lost everything, remember Emily's story. Remember that even in the ashes of what once was, there is beauty waiting to be seen. There is strength waiting to rise. And there is happiness quiet, steady, unshakable, waiting to be chosen. Because sometimes it's only when we lose everything that we finally discover the secret to true happiness.